Dr. Ranganathan, like I said, earlier, first what happens is that a sense of grief and fear grips you, and then you start thinking, applying your brain, analyzing the situation, assessing what's transpired. I'm not saying that it's unsafe now, nobody's going to travel. Of course, we are going to do that. But everybody at this point of time on an individual level, perhaps recounting a similar situation if they've ever been into, recounting the worst tragedies that have happened in the history of aviation. Is this just that, an accident, and at the moment we should just wait for the black box to be recovered to get more details? Because the one question that nobody has an answer to and everybody is asking, what went wrong?
Good evening, Swati, and good evening to my fellow panelists. And at the outset, may I please offer my sincere condolences to the families of the bereaved. It really is a dark day for India and for all the affected families. And what can I say? It's truly a tragic day. Couple of points I'd like to make, and I'd like to thank Suhail for that wonderful bit that he spoke about over the last couple of minutes. Very important topic that he raised about the Air India pilots and how let us wait for the conclusions of the investigations that would happen, obviously, in the ensuing months. Couple of points. Number one, of course, Swati, as you very correctly said, it immediately happens as human proclivity after a crash. We believe that, flight is one of the least safest journeys to make. In fact, it is quite the opposite. The safest journey to make is through air. That has been proven. As far as this Dreamliner is concerned, of course, there have been issues with its safety. There was a whistleblower who said that there were issues with cost cutting, and there were things that especially related to hydraulics and whatnot. But the fact remains that there has never been a single Dreamliner crash. There has never been a single wide-body Dreamliner crash. This is the first wide-body crash of an Indian Airlines after 40 years. So it is exceedingly rare. That said, because it is exceedingly rare, I think it is absolutely paramount that we get to the bottom of it. Now, it's very clear, from the video that you've been running, and thank you for airing it, the plane crashed exactly 30 seconds after takeoff. Now, a sudden descent such as this, in fact, there was a Dreamliner that had a sudden descent about 14 months ago from Sydney to New Zealand, and it had a catastrophic consequence. Instead, many people were seriously injured. They're still investigating what caused that sudden descent. But, there could be several factors. Of course, the most common one is engine failures. I, as a common man, would never like to speculate what exactly it was. Right. But I think it is important for us to, as Suhail said, I'm not going to speculate or even talk about pilot error, because those two pilots were absolutely magnificent. They were highly trained, highly skilled. They had almost in total 10 to 11,000 hours of flying with them together. It wasn't possibly environmental factors. There was no severe weather that was reported, no wind shear, no cold, no turbulence, etc. Yes, there could be collision or external impact, a bird strike, many people say, but then it's rare. Drone collision, rare. Of course, I'm not conjecturing that. Structural failure, catastrophic damage to critical components, yes, you could say that. But I think what I would say as a layman is quite possibly a critical engine malfunction, but then again, there are two of those, right? So it would be exceedingly rare for both engines to fail. Perhaps a flame-out compressor stall or fuel supply issue, I don't know. But again, the strength of the explosion was because it was loaded with fuel, because it was a long-haul flight. But as Suhail said, and I echo with what you said as well, investigators will get to the bottom of it. Today, India grieves, Swati, and it grieves terribly. It's a very tragic day.